Live now to Ehud Olmert. He's the former Prime Minister of Israel. He also previously served as Israel's Defense Minister. He's with us from Tel Aviv. Prime Minister, thank you so much for your time. Just characterize the extraordinary developments we've seen in the last 48 hours in Israel and around the region. Iran's direct attack on Israel, while somewhat symbolic, seems to mark a shift in a red line. Would you say this is a new Middle East?
I will not take it that far. I think this has been a decision of Iran to respond to what they argued was the Israeli elimination of Iranian general in Damascus. Israel never took responsibility for it, but the Iranians were firm in their decision to respond to this. And they declared war on Israel. There is no question about it. They declared war Saturday night. And it may have become something much more dramatic. But as a result of the most impressive response by the alliance of Israel, the United States, and Britain, France, and some Arab countries, turned out to be defeat to the Iranians. This was a humiliating defeat to the Iranians. They shot more than 300 UAVs, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and they were all intercepted. It was incredible. I must say it is an historical day in terms of the military performance. But the outcome provides Israel with, I think, time to be able to think in a cool head before we retaliate. And that's, therefore, I think it's not so dramatic as it may have been.
So what do you expect to happen here? We know that Prime Minister Netanyahu has been meeting with the war cabinet, deliberating when and how to respond. Israel has vowed to respond to this Iranian attack. So how do you expect that to happen? What will that response look like? That's what the entire region is looking to hear about. So what will happen next?
I think there is much ado about very little. I think that there are pressures within the Israeli cabinet by the Messianic groups, the extreme right-wingers that are not just supporting the prime minister, but squeezing him and can break down the government, and they want reprisal by Israel in a very tough and painful reprisal. I think most people that I'm familiar with, and most those with experience, think that it would be a mistake to attack Iran now. We defeated Iran on Saturday night. I mean, we had a great achievement, which is a source of great pride for many of us, because the Israeli army proved what we knew, that with the sophistication, the technologies, and the professional level of the Israeli pilots and the anti-air systems that we have developed, we can do very well, and we did very well. So the question now is, how do
I will say, though, Prime Minister, lots of questions about why we didn't see that type of response in October. Clearly a major security failure back then that Israel is now trying to make up for domestically, politically on the ground here. But let's just quickly move forward here. With regards to the US position now, do you think President Biden has the desire and capacity to use his leverage against Netanyahu to ensure that we don't see a wider regional conflict? That's also a primary concern here. As I mentioned, Netanyahu has vowed to respond. We want to know how rogue he's going to go.
Yeah, I just have to say in comment to your saying, in October, we didn't fight with an army of another country. This was a terrorist organization which broke through into the Israel, south part of Israel, and was butchering and killing in the most primitive and brutal way innocent people. you couldn't use missiles and airplanes in order to defeat them or to stop them. We did it in another way since then. Now, obviously, President Biden wants to contain the situation, not to allow it to expand, and we all are in the same page with President Biden. We don't think that it should be expanded now. We don't think that it is the right time now to continue or to perhaps cause the Iranians then to retaliate, to the Israeli retaliation, and so on and so forth, and it will become like a regional war, something that we want to prevent. We need to achieve the goals that we set for us, which for us now, the Israelis, the most important thing is to return back the hostages that were caught. Had the Iranian attack on Israel resulted in a different way, had there been casualties, had the Israeli military bases, Air Force bases were destroyed, it may have required a different response. But considering the failure of the Iranians, and as a result of the great performance of the Israeli Air Force and the Israeli missiles, and the assistance of the United States and the other parties, I think we can afford ourselves now to act in a quieter and more restrained and more reserved manner to somehow bring to a halt the confrontation with the direct confrontation with Iran. We have an indirect confrontation with Iran all the time, because all the Hezbollah, the Hamas, the militias in Iran, in Iraq and Syria are all proxies. The Houthis are all proxies of Iran anyway. But it is different to have a confrontation with the proxies than to expand it into a full-fledged war with Iran. That we don't need. I think the Iranians understand now that we are not afraid. If necessary, we'll know how to deal with them, and I'm not certain that they have the same capacity to defend themselves as we have manifested on Saturday. So we are in a good position right now. What we need to do is to make an agreement that will bring an end to the war in Gaza for the return of all the Israeli hostages. This is, in my mind, the most important fundamental obligation. It's true that there are many Israelis and some factions in the cabinet which are squeezing the prime minister, and he's a very weak and person, and he seems to be able to surrender to them rather than to the call or voice of reason, and therefore things may happen, but we'll try to do everything in order to stop it.